Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I'm doing my top favorite weird books that I've read so far in 2021. So I recently did my halfway through the year stats. I will leave that video linked down below. What I didn't talk about are all of my favorite books. So I recently put up my top 6 dark books of the year so far. I will leave that linked as well. But today we're gonna do the weird books. So I have 5 to talk about, and I think that they all have really great strengths and weaknesses, but the thing about them is that they are all atmospheric and they're all very memorable. So without further ado, let's get into it. My number 5 pick is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. I gave this 3.5 stars. So we are following Vern, who is a 7-month pregnant woman who is escaping the compound in which she lived. It's kind of like a religious cult that focuses on building Black strength again in America and teaching Black history, but the problem is that it's really intertwined with religious and cult extremism, which is not so good. So she escapes the cult and she's running through the forest to find a new life. And honestly, I am 6 months pregnant myself, and running in general is not a thing, and certainly not through the forest with no help or anything, so can't relate. Vern is disabled. She has eyesight difficulty and chronic pain. She's also an albino Black main character, as well as there is also Lakota winked two-spirit rep in here. There's a female-female relationship and a female two-spirit relationship, as well as the author, River Solomon, is non-binary and Black. Okay, so those are all the rep and things in the book. Some of the things that I didn't love so much about this book were that there were really heavy info dumping parts, both just woven throughout the narrative and also in flashback scenes that you get through the history of ancestors, which it is a cool way to relay information, but it is nevertheless still info dumping. So that's ultimately why it gets 3.5. But I will say my favorite part of this book is the body morphing, body horror element, which I'm not going to say anything else about because I don't want to spoil it, but that was so freaking cool. Definitely my favorite part of this. So although I gave it 3.5, it wasn't perfect for me by any means. It has really stuck with me as just this truly important yet very weird reading experience. All right, number 4 is The Route of Ice and Salt by Jose Luis Zarate, translated by David Bowles. So this is a Mexican writer who is translated from the Spanish. So this has a ship called the Demeter who is traversing the ocean carrying Transylvanian soil. And if you know anything about Transylvania, that's where Dracula's from. So this is a Dracula origin story, but instead of following Dracula, we're following the sea captain who has a lot of gay longing. So he's really lusting after the sailors on his ship and also past lovers he's had. And as he's going through these dreamy, hazy memories, it's overlaid with really gothic atmosphere of being on the high seas. And then things are starting to slowly be weird and go amiss, and he's so caught up in his longing that you're like, hey, can we focus on oh, what might be going on below deck, because your men are slowly starting to dwindle down in number. So I really recommend this. I think it's weird, and it's kind of high seas, gay longing, but with some Dracula thrown in there, and an oddly large number of rats. So if that's not your thing, this wouldn't be for you. I don't mind rats, but there were just a lot of them in here. Yeah, so that is my number 4 pick so far. Number 3 is The Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan, who is a Scottish writer. This is set in a waterworld dystopian where there are 2 types of people, basically landlockers who live on land, and then damplings who live on flotillas or ships or basically floating houses that keep them on the water. And we're following two main characters. There's North, who is a circus performer who performs with her bear on Excalibur, which is a circus boat. And then also Callanish, who is a Gracekeeper who administers like shoreside burials. And it's a very cool burial method where when people are grieving, they're given like a bird in a cage, and that is put above the water burial of their loved one. And when that bird in the cage dies, that's when they are technically allowed to stop grieving for their loved one, like their soul has passed on. So it's just very cool dynamics. And when their paths cross, North and Callanish understand the other one, if that makes sense. Other elements in here include a female-female relationship and queer and gender playing elements, mostly in the circus. For me, I gave this 4 stars. What really kept it from getting higher was that the last third of the book is hijacked by a secondary character who I didn't care about, and I was really sad to see the plot move in that direction. But nevertheless, I did really enjoy this book, and it really stuck out as a really great water dystopia where, if you don't know, like, I love water, so whenever there's water in like a dream atmosphere, obviously, it usually gets my attention. All right, moving on to number 2. Number 2 is one I haven't talked about in quite a while because I read it quite a ways back, I think in February. This is The Skyward Inn by Aliya Whiteley, who is an Irish writer. And this is just such like a weird, imperfect book, but it has one of the like endings of the whole year that has stuck with me the most, other than probably the endings from The Membranes by Chita Wei. And this is just so odd, okay? So we are set at an outpost in a peaceful farming community on a planet that has decided to basically opt out of intergalactic war. So everyone is very peaceful. There's like religion and farming, and there's like the one inn called the Skyward Inn. And that's where we meet our two main characters who both run the inn. And it's much more than that. Like, something weird is happening within the domain. The two main characters, like, have to be careful not to touch one another for reasons. There's just really cool concepts. There's a lot of body horror and like sci-fi elements that make sense when you get to them, but I didn't see them coming. And at first when I read the book, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, oh, I don't know how well I liked that ending. But then like it has stuck with me, and I'm like, actually that was a really cool ending, and it would make an amazing like Black Mirror episode or a movie, honestly. It's grotesque, but definitely has stuck with me, and I really recommend it if, I don't even know how to recommend it. If you like sci-fi that isn't hard sci-fi, but it has some sci-fi mixed in, but it's overall like this weird atmosphere where you just have to kind of roll with the book to experience it, this would be for you. So I definitely want to read more Aliya Whiteley in the future, because of course this is my second favorite weird book of the year so far. Okay, and my first favorite of the year so far, so obviously my most favorite, is Strange Beast of China by Yang Ge. This is a Chinese translation. And this one is odd in that it is segmented into fabulistic chapters, where each chapter follows a different strange beast of China. So we're set in a made-up city in China where beasts live among humans, and the beasts are very human-like in some aspects, but not in others. And what makes them different, what sets them apart, is what makes them a beast. So we are following a female main character who is a beast zoologist turned writer, and she gets pulled into investigating what is happening to certain beasts and how it intertwines like with her own life and people she knows. So that is the common thread that links all of the different chapter narratives. But like some of the beasts live underground, some of the beasts have poisonous skin, some of the beasts are made into ivory furniture because their bones are so beautiful. It's really like a melancholy, phantasmagorical story with like fables for each chapter. So there's so many different ways that you could read this book. And you kind of have to go with it, because at the end, I still wasn't sure about the main character's family tree, because nothing is explicit. It's very subtle and it's left to a lot of interpretation. But I really recommend it. And I just thought that every chapter it could be read as an individual, distinct short story about a beast, or if you decide to link them all together, you could look for like metaphor and so on. I just thought that this was such a weird, awesome translated gem that I picked up this year. So those are all of the weird books that I have loved the most so far this year. I am sure there will be more. I know that there will definitely be more because I recently got a library haul and they're all kind of weird. So I'm very excited for that. Let me know what great weird books you've been reading lately, whether it's weird in format or atmosphere, or the just go with it plot where you have to kind of like trust the author and see how it pans out. I would love to hear what you're reading. And I will see you in another video soon. The next one, I believe, is my favorite queer reads of the year. So I will see you then. Lots of love. Bye!